Good morning and welcome to the Ludlow College Virtual Open event. In this session, we are going to be looking at the A-levels in English Literature and English Language, Geography, History and French and Spanish. We've got a few short videos from the tutors to show you, which will just sort of explain the subjects in a little bit of detail, and then they're on hand to answer any questions that you may have about the subjects. So sit back and watch the videos and enjoy.
Hello, my name is Carl Morris and I'm head of Ludlow College. I would like to welcome you to our virtual open event. I thought I would start by explaining why you should consider coming to Ludlow College for your post-16 education. We have an excellent track record for academic performance for A-levels and vocational courses. Presently, we are ranked very highly on the national achievement tables. Virtually all of our students achieve their courses with, on average, 99.3% of our A-level students passing their course over the past 5 years. 100% of our vocational students have passed their course over the last 3 years, with all our students gaining a positive career outcome, whether that is going to university, a job or an apprenticeship. Our timetable is very different to other colleges. The average student comes into college for 3.5 days per week, therefore giving students freedom for part-time jobs, work experience and limiting their travel to college time. We have excellent facilities with new science labs, a fitness suite, art and health and social care rooms, specialist rooms for media and dark rooms for photography, to name a few. Our curriculum is very broad with 27 different A-levels, 4 level 3 vocational courses in sport, health and social care, early years and business, 2 level 2 vocational courses in health and social care and early years combined and business. If you're interested in a career in football, please have a look into our football education programme, which is run in conjunction with Shrewsbury Town Football Club. All students have the opportunity to take part in one of our enrichment activities such as drama, sports teams, High Achievers programme, art academy, to name a few. If you have any questions, please take the opportunity to speak to the teachers during this event. Staff will be available to discuss transport and finance queries as well. I would just like to end by saying thank you for attending this event, and if you have not done so already, you can make an application to the college. This is done via our website, and once you've completed an application form, we will give you a telephone call to discuss your career options and your course options. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Naomi Anderson. I teach A-level geography at Ludlow College. The course is roughly a 50-50 split between physical geography and human geography. In the first year, the physical geography topics are tectonics and coasts. So you may have done a little bit of that before and we'll build on your knowledge. You may not, and that's not a problem because we start with the sort of theories and concepts from scratch with the physical kind of rocks and geology and all the basics. And then our human topics in the first year are diverse places and globalisation, and those are looking at connectivity around the world, TNCs, megacities, ethnicity, migration, a whole range of sort of human related, and I think even the physical geographers can get quite into those because they're things you perhaps haven't studied before, so it's quite interesting. In the second year we move on to water and carbon for the physical topics, so we do sort of river basins, river regimes, we do drought, we do flood, we do global circulation of water and the water cycle, and carbon we do the carbon cycle, the geological carbon cycle, oceanic circulation, climate change, it links to water. We do energy security, there's water security, so there's human elements within those physical topics too. And then for the human topics in year 2, we do superpowers and identity, migration and sovereignty. Now those are quite different. Superpowers, we're looking at Russia and China and India and the US and military powers. And then for identity, migration and sovereignty, we look at things like tax havens and the structures of the UN, the G20, the decision making that goes on globally, and we look at nationalism and those sorts of movements. In terms of field trips, we get out in the first year to Birmingham or another big city, usually for our field work, for our urban studies. We get out and about around Ludlow for our rural studies. We do some testing and statistics there. In the end of the first year, we're going to Devon to study coasts and sediment, and then in the second year I take revision trips to London and to other schools around the area. We go off to Wolverhampton or Stourbridge to listen to lectures and talks, and if there's anything interesting that's on, I will take the group and make that available to people. So we've done coach trips, minibus trips all over the place. At the end of the first year, you also do an independent investigation worth 20% of the overall mark, so only 80% of your A-level is examined. The independent investigation is just up to you. You study exactly what you want, and I support you with that, and you write up the report. So hopefully that tells you a little bit about the course and makes you want to hear more, and I look forward to meeting you at some point in the future. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name's Jenny Marsh and I am the history teacher and senior tutor at Ludlow College. To tell you a little bit about what we study in history at Ludlow, in the first year I do medieval history. So we do two modules, one which is Crusades, which looks at the first, second, third and then fourth Crusades, and the second module that we do is a Henry II module. This module is a very focused module which looks just at the reign of Henry II, so that is 1154 to his death in 1189. Both of the modules look at some similar characters, so you see Henry II coming up, you see his son Richard I, and you also see the two kings of France which appear in both of the modules, so Louis VII and then Philip, his son, as well. In the second year, I do more modern topics, so I'm hoping that by studying medieval and modern history, everyone will have something that they enjoy. So the first module that we do in the second year is a coursework module, and this module is run over a period of about 3 months. I teach for 8 weeks of that, and then you have a month to write your coursework. The coursework itself is a 4,000 word piece of document which is based on 3 historians and their views on a topic. The topic I've picked to teach you about is the end of the First World War, so 1918, through to the end of the Second World War, so 1945. And within this topic, you can look at absolutely anything that you would like to. So you could pick a topic such as the Blitz, you could pick something which is a bit more military. So I've had a few students look at Operation Barbarossa, the German invasion of Russia. You could look at something political. So I've had people compare the political systems in Germany and Italy and Spain, or you could look at British politics and Churchill, Chamberlain. There's a huge range of different topics that you can do, and the choice is up to you, so I let students pick what they would like to study. The fourth module, the final module that we do for history, is experience of warfare, and this is 1790 through to the end of 1918. So you do Napoleonic Wars, Crimean War, Boer Wars, and then the First World War. And this is very much a module which looks at bits of everything. So you do some military history, you do some political history, you do social history, you do a bit of economic history in there as well. So it's a real range of different topics mixed in together and based on a period which is really interesting and sees lots and lots of changes over time. From a point of success, pass rates, history at Ludlow, I've got 100% pass rate at A2, and I've usually get mostly A to C, so top grades as well. So I've got good rates, good pass rates. Numbers wise, I've got quite big groups for Ludlow, so I had 16 second years and 17 first years this year, so quite big groups as well. Okay.
The English Language A-Level is a varied and interesting course on which students will learn the skills to analyse a wide range of texts, both written and spoken. They will also study sociolinguistics, learning how language reflects and shapes individual and group identity. We'll look at the relationship between language and gender, how language is used in the workplace, and how it differs from region to region, and in the second year around the world. We'll look at how a person's language use changes over time, with a unit dedicated to the fascinating subject of child language acquisition. We will also look at the evolution of the English language and learn how it has developed over time and how it has been influenced by other languages and cultures. In the second year, there is a coursework component consisting of an original writing project and a language investigation. This non-exam assessment unit is a great opportunity for students to develop their independent study skills.
Hello, I'm Peter Fishleigh, and along with Duncan Thomas, make up the English Literature tutorial team here at Ludlow College. I'm delighted that you're interested in the subject, and I hope to tell you a little more about it in the next minute or so. What is English literature? It's no massive surprises, because I'm guessing that most of you will have studied the subject already at GCSE level. I guess essentially it's the kind of almost forensic reading of a range of prose, poetry and drama, and perhaps a little more challenging texts than those that you've encountered at GCSE already. In essence, it is the study of narrative, of stories and how they are told. Understanding literature at A level is about appreciating its ambiguity, the fact that the same narrative can produce many different meanings. Most importantly, of course, is your own reading. So partly the course is about building your confidence in formulating your own critical viewpoints about texts. At A level, increasingly, it's also about appreciating the views of others, of established critical theories, perhaps like feminism or psychoanalytical approaches or Marxism even, and understanding the influences on writers and readers, the things that exert pressure in the production and sometimes the reception of texts. So onto the course itself. At Ludlow we follow AQA English Literature Specification A, and you can look up more details about that course at www.aqa.org.uk. Essentially, it comprises 3 components. The first component is studied in Year 1, and an AS level is sat at the end of that year. Component 2 then is followed in Year 2, and in between Year 1 and 2 we study Component 3, which is what we call NEA now, non-exam assessment. In the old days, what we called coursework. Essentially, assessment for English literature comprises 2 exams, one on each component, 1 and 2, and that equates to 80% of the overall mark. 20% is reserved for the independent critical study, the NEA. Contact time, therefore, lesson time is focused primarily on developing skills in preparation for examination, so focus on reading and responding to text in essay format, but also there's plenty of time for discussion and creative tasks and responses during the preparation of set texts. To supplement classroom study, we try, where relevant, to attend theatre trips and of course sometimes the cinema and include film adaptations as part of our study. On occasions we have been able to bring in writers, authors to share their understanding of their art as well. So why study literature? On a practical level, for those who are looking at their A-levels as progression to university, then English literature is a facilitating subject. So it's a kind of traditional academic heavyweight that's very highly regarded among your suite of A-levels to access a range of courses at any university, including Russell Group and Oxbridge. It's also another reason is continuity. So beginning the study of A-levels, perhaps with some very new subjects, can be a bit disorientating. It's nice to have a familiar face, and of course, at heart, English literature is recognisable from your GCSE study of literature. So it's nice to have a familiar face. English literature also develops a whole range of complementary skills: critical thinking, essay writing, analytical skills, and of course reading, to support other subjects that you're studying. On a personal level, studying literature opens your eyes to a range of exciting texts and promotes a lifelong interest in literature. It builds confidence in reading and writing, and it develops independent thinking. So, who's it for? Avid readers, of course, perhaps that's a no-brainer, but it's important to state that it is not just for the bookworm. Anyone who enjoys the opportunity to expand their mind, to think critically, to exchange views and ideas with others. English literature is an excellent all-rounder. So that's about all. For more information, you can always contact me via the college email. Thanks for listening.
Hello, my name is Alice Fishleigh. I'm the teacher of French and Spanish at Ludlow College, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what we offer. So in the first year, when you arrive in September, you'd have a course book, which is written by Edexcel for Edexcel, and they cover all the topics which we'll study over the 2-year course. So in the first year, our focus is mainly on Spanish or French culture, so elements to do with divorce, trends with marriage, gay marriage, trends with equality, world of work, do men and women get treated the same in the workplace, why or why not. We also have a wonderful module which our students really enjoy, which looks at music and dance and how this has shaped the various countries, the Hispanic countries, and also France and the colonies. And then we also have to do a film in the first year. So for French, we do Les Choristes, which is a beautiful French film about a choir. And then for Spanish, we study the rather hard-hitting Laberinto del Fauno by the superb director Guillermo del Toro. And again, the students get the study guides to go with those films. In the second year, we look at more of a historical element. So we look at the Spanish Civil War and how that has shaped modern-day Spain and the dictatorship that was in place for 30-odd years that the Western Europe don't know too much about. And then for France, we look at the Second World War, the collaboration with the Nazis, and then the subsequent liberation. We also look at immigration, both historical and contemporary, and just how they're kind of shaping France or Spain today. We look at the richness of immigration and how that can really help a country economically and culturally, but also we look at the problems to do with that and how both countries are trying to tackle over immigration, too much immigration. In the second year, we study a text. So for French, we do a lovely text called Nous et moi, which is a contemporary text, and it's about homelessness and identity. And again, our students really identifying with the issues raised in those texts. And for Spanish, we do my favourite playwright, Lorca, La Casa de Bernarda Alba, and for the past 3 years, we've actually been able to go and watch this play performed in London or in Birmingham, which has really added something to our study. And what we do really well, so we're really pleased that we have amazing access to foreign language assistance. Nationally, people can't afford to offer this service that the British Council provide us with. We manage to have not only a couple of hours a week, but actually 1 hour per student per week per subject. So the students get 1 hour Spanish or French with a native speaker, which is just an incredible amount of provision. And we see the benefits of that in the students' level of confidence and oral proficiency. They're extremely good speakers of Spanish or French by the end of the 2 years. We also have, like I mentioned, very small class sizes, so the learning is very personalised. And then lastly, we have the trips that we are just thrilled about. We manage to go to France every year, to our twin town, La Ferté-Messy, where students spend time in host families. And then for Spain, we go to Granada, the south of Spain, to look at the culture and to, again, spend time with Spanish families. So these are elements that we really feel set us apart. Thank you very much. Adios and à bientôt. Au revoir.
Okay, so hopefully that's given a bit of an insight into the different subject areas available for this particular seminar. Now we've got a few questions that are coming through. Peter, if I can grab you first, we've got some English ones coming through first. So I think this might be more English language than English literature, but someone's asked, what is the ratio of coursework compared to exam work?
It's actually the same in both subjects. So the coursework comprises 20% of the overall result in language and literature. But I mean, that's a kind of national move towards downgrading what was coursework. But we find it's a really important, still a really important part of developing the individual as a student, the opportunity to work independently. And choosing their own texts and their own tasks. So yes, 20%.
Okay, thank you. And then someone else has asked, is there a creative writing element?
There is within the English language. There is the option. It's really quite small, but part of the coursework is the opportunity to do some creative writing as part of the coursework portfolio. It has been minimised in language, though. In literature, creative responses are only really bound in with preparing text for exam response, and coursework responses, all pretty traditional essay writing.
Okay, thank you. And someone has said, is there a lot of work on grammar?
At the start of the English language course, there's about kind of 3 or 4 week program where Duncan does a lot of work on the basics of English grammar. It's Duncan, so it's always great fun and not arduous, but it kind of underpins the sort of deeper analysis of real world texts. It's important to have some framework to be able to talk about the language in those. So there's a bit, but not overly. It's not too much.
Yeah, I suppose it's a vital part, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Naomi, if we can go to you next with some geography questions. Someone's asked, can you tell me a bit more about the geography coursework, please?
Okay, so it's a 4,000 word report, which sounds long, but actually it isn't. A lot of that is producing graphs and analysis of your questionnaires. It's a really useful piece of project work to do that prepares you for independent work at university. So the skills the students pick up in being critical, doing analysis, creating a critical evaluation at the end, doing the wider reading, citing those sources within the report, those are all really super skills that help them with university. In terms of the topics, students can choose to study anything they like. Every single person does a different report title. I don't read the drafts, I just help sort of enable the data collection and enable the write-ups and give information on best practice and how to get the best out of your report. And students submit those having worked on it and collected the data themselves. There are elements where they can do group data collection and they can go out in the field in small groups and share that data for the primary data collection. But then the report they produce is wholly independent after that. Is that enough? Does that answer it?
I should think so, yeah. Sounds good. Someone else has asked, what trips are there?
Okay, so every year we do a coast field trip that's a 3-day trip. We are planning to go to Devon in April. And because we couldn't take our first years this year, it'll actually be a 2-year group trip next year, so it'll be a big one. And that's a really nice way to understand coastal processes right there standing on the beach. And we use a proper field study centre that are all set up to take students and have a fabulous canteen and a pool and all sorts. So that's really lovely. I take the second years to London for a revision trip, with the authors of our textbook, which is always a lovely trip. We go the night before, stay in a youth hostel, get to go around the centre of London the night before, and then go to the revision day. And then we do a local field work where we can use our own rural areas for data collection. We also head off to Birmingham for a day and study an area called Alam Rock, which is a sort of heart of the Pakistani community up in Birmingham, and that really helps us understand part of our diverse places studies, where we look at how communities shape the places where they live, and it's fascinating and vibrant and wonderful to visit. And then I do revision, not revision, but more like evening lectures at Wolverhampton Girls' School and Stourbridge King Ed's, I think it's called. And we also come to Hereford to the college there, because Worcester University put on lots of talks. And so we go to those on odd evenings as they come up through the year. And those are organised mainly through the Geographical Association and through Worcester University.
Okay, excellent. Someone's asked what they could do over the summer to prepare for the geography course.
So my advice would be to start watching Simon Reeve on iPlayer. He's got some fabulous studies he's done. He could be a geography teacher. Simon Reeve is wonderful, and he talks through Central America. He goes through the Caribbean. He goes through Russia. The Russia one is amazing for looking at climate change. I would also look up a book called Prisoners of Geography by a chap called Tim Marshall. And that one is everything you need to know, I think, to get you started. And then another really good one, if you're into your human geography and your stats, I would read Factfulness by Hans Rosling. That's a guy who used to work for the UN, and he has used data in a way to bust a few myths, actually, about things that preconceptions we have in Western Europe about the rest of the world. And it's fascinating, really worth a read.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. If we move on to some questions about languages, Alice, if we can bring you back into the foray. So we've got a couple of questions. The first one, someone said, what careers could I go into after studying a language course?
Anything. Languages are really attractive to potential employers. They see you've got French or Spanish as an A-level, and they know that you've worked hard. They know that you've studied culture, that you've studied, obviously, language, but you are often quite an open-minded person. You understand diversity, you understand Europe, and so actually pretty much anything. Obviously, the obvious ones, translating, interpreting, teaching, but actually pretty much any career will be really happy to see that you've got a French or Spanish A-level.
Yes, I suppose even if you're working in business, if you can deal with customers in different languages, that's a really useful skill, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And kind of globalization means that we actually are dealing with people across the world, and Spanish being one of the top 3 languages spoken in the world means that it's extremely attractive for future employers.
Absolutely. Someone's asked, can you study more than one language?
Yes, so again, that's quite rare as a college for us. We're able to do 2 because I teach both. I can't be in the same place at the same time. So they're not timetabled at the same time. In some colleges they are. So you can do both. The same entry requirements are there. We'd like a 7 at GCSE. We do sometimes let beginners start. So if you've got a 7, 8 or 9 in one language, and you're what we call a kind of good linguist, you understand how language works, we would still consider taking you on as a beginner for the other subject, and just seeing how you progress. They're quite transferable skills, so the grammar we teach in one applies to the other, and some of the vocabulary is also overlapping, given that it's come from that same Latin root. They actually kind of enhance each other. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility. We do have lots of dual linguists, actually.
Very brilliant. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I say someone has asked further down if they could do it without any prior experience. So presumably they need some kind of language skills.
Yes, we need to see some sort of language skill. So we actually have native speakers who haven't particularly studied the language, but they can speak it. If they can speak it and if they can read it, we would then obviously look at taking them on. We can teach them how to write it over the time, but we do like some level of experience. We also obviously accept mature students, so students who may have done Latin or students who may have done a different language. Again, we'd look into kind of what their experience is and what their linguistic ability is really. But that definitely is a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Class sizes. What sort of size are we looking at?
Yeah, so we're really fortunate. We have lovely small classes, kind of 6 or 7 for Spanish, and I think we had 10, which is quite large for us at Ludlow for languages in the French side last year. So it does obviously change from year to year, but we get a very personalised learning kind of experience in the classroom. Students can get immediate feedback, and they all kind of form a lovely clan because it is so small. Plus the exchanges really help to kind of bond the groups. So that's one thing I think we do particularly well, is having those nice kind of small class sizes. Nobody minds speaking up in a class of 6. It's slightly more daunting speaking Spanish in front of 30 people. So that's one thing I think we're quite pleased with.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Jenny, if I could bring you in next. I've got a few history questions that have come in. Someone's asked, is there much freedom in what periods of history we can look into?
For the modules themselves, no. So the modules are stuck with the 2 Crusades, the Crusades, Henry II, and then the more modern history, experience of warfare module. For the coursework, there is a little bit more freedom. I pick to teach I do an 8-week teaching block on the 1929 through to the end of the Second World War. And within that, I teach lots of different aspects of history. So we do some political, some social, we do the military stuff around the Second World War as well. But within that, you can pick whatever you want to study your coursework for. My coursework is very, very similar to Naomi's and to Pete's. It's 4,000 words and it's 20% of the final mark. But apart from that, I'm very open for students doing whatever topic they like. Generally speaking, people do within the period that I teach. There's a reason I pick it, it's because everyone enjoys it as a topic. But I've had students go out of that period as well. So I've had some people do, someone did about Agincourt a few years ago, so very medieval. I've had other people do early 1900s suffragettes, women's movement. And I've had people go a bit later and do politics in the 1940s and the 1950s, looking at the rise of Labour. So quite a variety, and you can pick whatever you want to within that topic to study.
Okay, brilliant. Someone's asked, what trips could I go on if I studied on the history course?
I try and do something every year, a different trip. It's a bit difficult with history because we haven't got loads and loads and loads around us, which is relevant to what I teach. However, I try to fit something in. So this year we went to go and see 1917 at the cinema in Hereford because that fitted perfectly. It was exactly the right time when it was showing, so we went to go and see that. Last year we went to Hereford Cathedral, and we've done that a couple of times because they've had a display about the Mappa Mundi and the Magna Carta. A few years ago, it was the anniversary of the Magna Carta, so we went to do that. So I try and do a variety of things, different trips that fit in with the subject area, and it generally will change each year depending on what's on, what's around at the time. Obviously, we've got Ludlow Castle as well, which is a really nice example of a medieval castle, and there's lots of history linked to Henry II related to Ludlow. So we've got some nice stuff really, really locally as well.
Brilliant. Someone's asked, what types of careers can I progress onto after studying history? And do many of your students go on to university?
Yeah, so a lot of my students will go on to university. They go on to study a variety of subjects. Quite often, I probably have about 50% of them, if not more, most years going on to do history. But they'll go on to do lots of other different subjects as well. I also have students who go into apprenticeships and they go straight into work. History is a facilitating subject, similar to English, similar to the languages as well. And I think geography is facilitating, isn't it, as well? So it's the skills that you develop. They can take you into any careers that you want to do. And even my students that go in to do history at degree level, so they'll go on to do degree in history, but they're not necessarily planning on being a historian or being a teacher, the traditional things you think that people that do history degrees will go into. You have lots that go into business, they might go into law, they'll go into a real range of different subjects. And that's the joy of something like history. It's the skills that you develop, the ability to analyse, the ability to read texts and pull information out of them, presenting skills. The coursework is really important as well, because that shows a real written element that you can still do, which lots of subjects don't do anymore. So there's lots and lots of skills, and employers like that. So I'd say if you wanted to be a doctor, you're not going to go in from a degree in history necessarily, maybe a supporting A level in history, but there's very, very few jobs that history would really stop you going into in the future.
Okay, brilliant. And someone's asked a similar question to what Naomi had. What can I do to prepare before starting history A level during summer?
Well, I will say very similar to as Naomi said, I would just start to do a bit of reading around the topics that we teach. So the Crusades module is a really big, really quite complex module, but it has also got lots and lots of really nice little stories and little anecdotes surrounding it. Something that I'd recommend you watch is the film Kingdom of Heaven. That's set around the middle of our period and the Third Crusade. And the loss of Jerusalem in 1187. So I'd say that's a really, really good visual to start to have a look at. Also on YouTube again, there's a very, very nice documentary which is called The Crescent and the Cross. Sorry. And if you have a watch of that, that takes you through the First, Second, and Third Crusades, which are all crusades that we study and we look at. I'd also have a look at some of the online journals. So something like the magazine History Today, you can get, you have to pay for it, but you can get quite good rates for an online subscription. And they have lots and lots of lovely, lovely different articles and information that you can read and that you can find out about from that. So yeah, I'd say just start doing your research. Another really, really nice place to have a look is the BBC website, and they look especially at the First World War and the Second World War. Over the last few years, with the different commemorations that we've had, they've put an awful lot of work into the history and putting in lots and lots of different aspects of the wars, and that would be really, really useful to have a look at as well and start to have a read about, because it's a bit different to the Crusades, so modern history compared to medieval history. Lots and lots of lovely information on there.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Jenny. I think we'll have to wrap it up there because we've overshot slightly on time. So hopefully that's given you a good insight into the different courses available and sort of what's involved. If you've got any further questions, this session will be recorded and put up on our YouTube channel. And if you want to look back and watch that, by all means do so. If you're watching the recording and think, oh, the question I wanted to know hasn't been asked, leave a comment on the video or contact us through the website or through social media channels, and we can direct those questions to the tutors to answer your questions. But for now, thank you for watching, and hopefully you'll tune into the rest of our virtual open event later today. Thank you.